All right, 2.8, we're going to start talking about a new type of leadership. For your Take 5, you should brainstorm types of leadership other than a king or queen. Other than a king or queen, who can lead or what can lead a country? So make sure you write that down for your Take 5. For notes, we're going to talk about a new style of leadership that emerges in Europe called absolutism. And these kings and queens are interested in having absolute or total control. And it is always a king or a queen. It is not a president, it is not a Congress or a parliament. This style of leadership is always run by a monarchy. The reason is, in part, they don't want to be limited by the citizens. It's not that they're mean or awful or that they hate the people that they rule, but something like a constitution or a parliament that is taking into consideration all of the people is not always as effective as a single person. So this is in a way completely opposite of the goals of the Magna Carta. One reason why these kings and queens who like absolutism think that this is okay is because they truly believe, we talked about this with the Stuarts in England, they truly believe that they have been put into that position of power by God. So that what they do truly is sanctioned or approved by God. And the reason this emerges now, in the time that we're studying, emerges in the 1600s, is because of all of the religious wars and religious tensions that we have been discussing so far this unit. We just got done with the 30 Years' War. All of the religious issues, these kings and queens want to take total power now to prevent and repair war and the ravages of war. So we are going to start in France. Oh, before that. So each of these absolute monarchs is going to at least attempt to take power in 5 ways. So these are 5 characteristics of the absolutist kings and queens. The first is through the army. Coming out of an era of religious wars, these leaders are going to want a strong military to fight back other countries or to prevent further wars. Their power is demonstrated by their military might. But in order to pay for these good armies, they need to tax the people. And this isn't taxing the way King John did in England, purely for their own benefit to buy nice stuff. They might do that as well. But they're taxing the people in order to raise funds to accomplish things they truly think will benefit all of the country. The absolute monarchs also want to have some sort of control over the church. They also want a centralized government rather than a country run on a system of nobility and run in local areas. Absolutism wants to have a single leader in the form of that king or queen. And that's a system similar to what we have in the United States, where we have a single government, and all of the states take instruction from the single government, rather than all of the states doing whatever they want, like nobility. So a central government, meaning a single unifying government that makes the main rules. And so now that the nobility, the local areas, aren't controlling everything, the central government needs people to work for it. So the people that work for the big government are called bureaucracy. These are government workers. It comes from the word for bureau, like a chest of drawers, a dresser made of drawers that's organized. So the bureaucracy are the people who work for the centralized government. People or groups that might not like this system, nobility. It was a pretty sweet job being a noble. Now some of their power is being removed and is going to the king. The church doesn't want to be told what to do or what not to do. Assemblies like the Parliament or Congress or something of that nature, they are not having the chance to interact or make changes in the government because now it is purely the kings or queens who are making decisions. So we're going to start in France with Louis XIV. Louis really becomes the example of an absolute monarch. He is the son of the last Louis we discussed, Louis XIII. And again, he becomes king at a very young age. There he is. Isn't he so pretty? He becomes king at 4 years old, which means he is not old enough to rule on his own. His regents are his mother, Anne of Austria, and Cardinal Mazarin. Both of them are Catholic. They are going to be ruling in his place until he is of age. Now, even though Louis XIV is not ruling on his own, he grows up knowing he is king and that he is special and that he has power. So he will eventually sort of really take on that identity of power. But like young men of the era, he's interested in what's cool. And what was cool at the time was ballet dancing. So here is King Louis as a teenager. This is his recital picture. And he played the role of Apollo, the Sun King. And this was his favorite dance. And as Louis gets older, he realizes this idea, the imagery of the sun god, Apollo, could be very effective as an analogy for his role as the King of France. So Louis fashions himself as the King of France as the Sun King. The sun gives life to everything on earth. The sun is the center of the solar system. In that way, Louis gives life to all of France. Louis is the center of France. So very, very self-centered, very egotistical, but he's doing it because he thinks it is best for his people. Now, when Louis becomes of age, he's ruling on his own. He still keeps his advisors. He still keeps Cardinal Mazarin as his main minister. And what was pretty traditional at this time was the ministers and advisors would do most of the work and then just sort of update the king or have him sign the documents. Oh, also there's images of the sun all over Louis's palaces. When Cardinal Mazarin dies, Louis in his 20s, it would have been traditional for the king to appoint a new minister, a new advisor to sort of be in charge, take control. Louis does not do that because he says, you know what, if I am appointed by God, if I am France, if I am the center of France, I should be the one doing the work and making the decision. So he really takes control, and this is a form of personal rule. He's not doing it because he hates the people. He's doing it because he feels that it is his responsibility to the people to do the job himself. And the phrase that Louis uses to embody all of this is "L'État c'est moi." The state is me. So King Louis is France. France is Louis. They are one and the same. So what benefits the country benefits the king, and vice versa. This is the time just coming out of the 30 Years' War. Even though France won, it was on the winning team for the 30 Years' War, that still costs a lot of money. So Louis is going to try and reduce some of that debt through taxes, taxing the people. He does it in a different way, though. Before this, taxes were collected by the nobles. The king would say, I need money. The nobles ask the peasants. And let's say the nobles collect $10, but they only give the king $8. It's one of the benefits of being a nobleman. Now, under Louis XIV, because he is the central government, he is the leader of the country, he now takes away that power from the nobles and says, I'm going to tax everyone, and it will be collected by the central government. But because Louis is not going to go door to door, his government is going to use their own employees throughout the country. So those are the local administrators. Rather than the nobles, now central government employees are organizing all of this. Same thing with the courts. Rather than a legal system run one way in the north of France and laws are run differently in the south of France, now it is all done by the single king. It is his laws apply to the entire country. Another way that Louis is going to demonstrate his power is he creates France in other places. He obtains new territories, especially in Canada and in the Caribbean, as a colonial system. One, because it looks cool. You have more land. It looks like seems like you have more power. But also, it's going to help the economy, especially in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean colonies, they're going to grow sugarcane. So essentially, they're growing sugarcane in France, just a much more tropical France. Then that becomes sugar, and France is going to sell that sugar to everyone else. So they're going to be able to build their economy by selling things to other countries. Rather than purely just France selling things to France. Louis wants to start exporting things to other countries and getting money from other countries. Another thing Louis wants to do to demonstrate his power is he wants to have a really cool place to live. So he decides to build a big old palace at Versailles. Versailles is about, 16, 17 miles outside of Paris. Paris, France is the capital. But Louis decides he wants to live in Versailles. He's going to build this huge palace to demonstrate his power, to demonstrate his golden shiningness on the people of France, to demonstrate his wealth. He is showing in a physical way that he is the center of France, that Louis embodies what it means to be French. He also is going to force lots of other people to live there. There are over 700 rooms at Versailles. Louis had kids, he had mistresses, but not enough to fill 700 rooms. So he's going to ask the nobles, hey nobles, you can't live, in Provence or in Burgundy or in Normandy. Instead, you're going to come live here with me so I can keep an eye on you. I want to make sure that you're not taxing the people too much or you're not creating laws in your region that are unfair. So he's centralizing the seat of power. So if you watch the video that's either on the YouTube channel or just over to the right, there is a video all about Louis and Versailles, so look at that. Those of you who are in class will remember Louis still likes to show off his legs back from his ballet days, even as he gets older. He wants to show off his legs, so he wears high heels. It becomes very fashionable for men to wear high heels. Also, as you saw in the video, the landscape of Versailles was sort of muddy for a while. He doesn't want to step in any of that. And also, to continue showing off his legs, he has the heels of his shoes painted red. So that is why today Christian Louboutins have red soles. Another way Louis wants to demonstrate his power is through religion. He wants to get rid of the Edict of Nantes that his grandfather Henry of Navarre created. And he does this because he is Catholic. Louis is Catholic, and if Louis is France, he feels that France should be Catholic as well. So he gets rid of this religious tolerance. Many Huguenots flee France at this time. And the rest of Europe actually is unhappy about this. The 30 Years' War was fought in one way over religious tolerance, and that's one of the effects of the Peace of Westphalia, was that Europe sort of agrees that people will be able to choose the religion that they want. So Louis is going to go to war with the rest of Europe over this. And he's able to have a really strong army because he reorganized it. Again, the army used to be organized by the nobility. Now, Louis has created a French army rather than one fractured by the nobility. The War of the League of Augsburg is when European countries fight Louis because they disagree with his revoking religious tolerance. If you remember back to 1555, the Peace of Augsburg and the Holy Roman Empire was an attempt at allowing people to choose their own religion. So Europe is going to go to war because they disagree with Louis removing that tolerance. But Louis now has a strong army because he has organized it, and it is run by one group, not many groups. So then they have peace for a while. He won. He feels good about that. And then he's going to fight the War of Spanish Succession. If you remember, all of these royal families across Europe have married each other for alliances and diplomacy. The Spanish king, Spanish Habsburg at the time, we talked about how the Habsburgs were super inbred. The Spanish Habsburg king at the time was so inbred that he could not produce an heir. So the Spanish have to look to other families for people who are eligible to become the king of Spain. Louis's grandson, through marriage, is able to take over that position as king of Spain. But the other Habsburgs, the Austrian Habsburgs, claim that they have a better claim to the Spanish throne. But again, Louis has this new awesome army, and he is going to win. His grandson is going to take over the throne of Spain. So the legacy of Louis XIV. He does some really cool stuff. He is our quintessential absolute king, but he does some other stuff that's not so great. Good stuff is he creates a centralized government, and he builds Versailles. Versailles still exists. You can go visit it today. The centralized government, this is a new type of government, and as far as politics go, it's pretty successful. So that's a good thing. He expands France. He gets a little bit of territory in Europe, but also as an empire. He gets territory around the world. But doing all that costs money, and Louis XIV's reign will put France into a ton of debt. And within 6 or 7 decades, France is going to implode as a result of this debt. All right, that's 2.8.